exactly what you want. It's exactly what you need. And it's exactly what you here for. It's exactly what you want.
यूहू, कैसे हैं आप सभी। आज के थर्ड एपिसोड ऑफ डेली फाइनेंस न्यूज में आपका स्वागत है। हम इस एपिसोड में बात करने वाले हैं मार्केट के हालचाल की। एक अच्छे दोस्त की तरह हमें मार्केट का हालचाल पूछते रहना चाहिए। तो आज से 2 हफ्ते पहले मैं अपने भाई एंड दोस्तों के साथ बैठा हुआ था एंड उस समय मार्केट हैड स्लिप्ड बाय ओवरऑल 10% ग्लोबली एंड इंडियन मार्केट हैड स्लिप्ड बाय 4% दैट डे। And they asked me what's my point of view regarding the market, and I said I'm expecting a V rebound in the market in the upcoming week because my calculations and my research was indicating that. Obviously, mere saying that is not enough, thus even providing the reasons why I thought that. And here are those reasons, guys. Indian markets have corrected by 9% in the last 9 trading sessions, and also FIIs had thought about 3,300 shares in a day. Now that is a bullish stance from investors' point of view. Now, पहला reason, RBI interest rate cut 6.25%, 6% also changed its stance from neutral to accommodative, meaning it is beneficial for investors and for the citizens as well. लोन सस्ते हो जाएंगे, FD में इंटरेस्ट रेट कम जरूर मिलेगा, लेकिन लोग फिर इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, which is good for business. दूसरा रीजन, CPI data, which tells about the inflation from consumers' point of view, its lowest since August 2019 at 3.3%. Along with that, PE ratio, that is price to earning ratio, is at 2.19%, which is the median tool of all time. Usually, whenever this goes below 23 or 24, investors start buying. It means market is investable or undervalued. Whereas there has been time investors held investment and didn't exit till 40 PE. Indian listed companies have been profitable in the last quarter due to lower CPI data and will also do better due to RBI's accommodative stance. Apart from that, they're going to distribute the dividends too. अब डिविडेंड्स क्या होता है? डिविडेंड्स एक हिस्सा होता है प्रॉफिट का जो आपको आपकी इन्वेस्टमेंट के अकॉर्डिंगली मिलता है, आपकी इन्वेस्टेड कंपनी से अगर वो प्रॉफिटेबल है। तीसरा रीजन, द बिगेस्ट रीजन ऑफ मेजर पुल बैक इन द मार्केट कैन आल्सो बी ड्यू टू द halt on US tariff for 90 days. Also, Indian government has done a 12% provisional safeguard for 200 days on 5 steel categories. Now, the fourth reason which I saw was the continuous infusion of capital from FPIs and FIIs as US dollar is going to depreciate against Indian rupee. And it will be a better chance for the FPI to have a better exchange rate as it will increase their ROI, and as the ROI from investing and the ROI from exchanging their money will simply add up. Apart from that, US nation and all other nations are currently overvalued, whereas Indian market had been correcting for the last 6 months and had corrected to a point where FIIs will want to invest. I had my fundamental and technical analysis behind why I thought other markets are overvalued or not stable at the moment, and why Indian currency will be stronger in upcoming weeks. Also, investors are going to expect a better monsoon in India this year. To prove my statement, in the last 12 days, FIIs had bought more than 23,000 crore shares in the Indian market, thus causing advanced decline ratio. अब ये होता क्या है? Meaning that there are 1834 shares that are advancing to 52 weeks high, whereas 1059 shares which has reached to 52 weeks low, and 93 stocks haven't had any move, thus making market advance in pricing. पांचवा, there has been constant influx of gold reserves from different countries in the fear of upcoming US recession, and their foreign reserves, which is full of USD, will depreciate. So to safeguard themselves, they're doing this. Apart from that, as we all know, our currency is just an IOU from the government against the gold. Thus, if the gold is not stronger, then they can't print more money to sustain markets and to sustain growth. Sixth reason, I saw the interview of Jim Walker Now he's the person who predicted 2008 housing financial crisis, and in that interview he wasn't bearish. Instead, he showed keen interest in the Indian market and even said that he believes that Indian market is going to give better returns than the US market due to many reasons. He believed that USA market is overvalued right now and the election hype has sinked in and now the uncertainty has kicked in. In the investors' mind, Trump wants to remove Jerome Powell, who is the chief of Federal Reserve of USA, because he wants to increase interest rate, whereas Trump wants him to cut it. And doing that might trigger recession in the USA. Even Goldman Sachs issued a report where they have increased the probability of recession hitting USA in 2025 by 45%, and even said that in October 2025 there might be a recession and given it a 28% probability. Apart from that, he believed that the rift of USA and China, India can be the lead one due to its neutral stance. चलो कहीं तो काम आ रहा है neutral stance इंडिया का. Also, he had his own calculation and comparison of other countries. According to him, at least in Asia, there is no other country that will grow robust like India in the coming year. Apart from that, we talk about the US Treasury yields for long-term bond. He said that the long-term bond yields are dropping, which is due to the uncertainty in the mindset of investors, and now that is an indicator of a recession too. ओहो, इतने सारे इंडिकेटर्स, फिर भी ट्रम्प डिड ऑल ऑफ दिस. कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं उन्होंने अपने दिमाग के घोड़े भेज दिए हैं जब से वो प्रेसिडेंट बने हैं. भगवान जाने उनका वो ईगो बोल रहा है या फिर उनका माइंड बोल रहा है. चलिए, ये तो करी मैंने फंडामेंटल बातें. इसके अलावा अगर मैं टेक्निकल एनालिसिस की बात करूं, then we could see a crossover in MACD, moving average and convergence divergence, RSI and SMA, and stochastic RSI of Indian indices in the weekly and monthly time frame, which is an indicator of bullishness. और तो फिर मजा आया ना जान के ये सब. हाँ जी, हमारी जो अब सेकंड न्यूज है वो भी हैवी है ट्रांजैक्शन में. तो चलिए आप गेस करिए मैं बात किसके बारे में कर रहा हूँ. कौन सा ऐसा बिजनेसमैन है जो न्यूज में रहता है, मोदी जी से जुड़ा रहता है, कभी पॉजिटिव आती है तो कभी नेगेटिव आती है. हाँ जी, मैं बात कर रहा हूँ अदानी एंटरप्राइज की. तो आप सबको पता है उन्हें न्यूज में रहना स्टार्टिंग से पसंद है, भले ही वो अच्छी हो या बुरी हो. तो ये न्यूज स्टार्ट करने से पहले कुछ टर्म्स है जो आपको जान लेनी चाहिए ताकि आपको आसानी से समझ आ सके. नाउ ASPEZ, Adani Ports and Special Economic Zone. Next, North Queensland Export Terminal, CRPSHPL, Carmichael Rail and Port Singapore Holding, APPH, Abbott Point Port Holding. हाँ जी, नाम तो बहुत बड़े heavy है, just like their work and the transaction they do. So what happened? Why did Adani has bought this? So the statement which were issued by the official has stated that they only purchase and invest those ports which provide the most efficient logistics and Indian trade routes. Now that plays a significant role. तभी इतने पैसे लगा पा रहे हैं. So let's talk about the portfolio of ASPAS. Now they have 19 ports and terminals, in which 15 are domestic and 4 are overseas. And the overseas one are Israel, Tanzania, Sri Lanka, and Australia. After that, if we talk about the Australia's next terminal will add up 85% to the cargo and 6.45% to the EBITDA. Next was acquired for $2.4 billion with 14.35 crore fresh equity shares. So why did they do this? They did it because Bound and Galilee mining bases are nearby and it is easier for them to export it. Apart from that, next port has already high quality customer base. Also, it provides direct access to the Australia's richest reserves of gold and key commodities. It can also export green hydrogen in the near future. तो अगर आप सबको ये न्यूज़ पसंद आई तो लाइक करना ना भूलिएगा, सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलिएगा एंड डू नॉट फॉरगेट टू प्रेस द बेल आइकन. थैंक यू.
It's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you need. And it's exactly what you're here for. So what What you waiting for, bro? You gotta struggle, cause it's a huddle. Once over there is always a new puzzle. There ain't a prize, but there will be pride if you don't succeed. Don't be ashamed to resist, cause persistence is the key. That's why it's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you need. And it's exactly what you here for. It's exactly. It's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you need. And it's exactly what you here for. It's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you need. And it's exactly what you here for. So what you waiting for, bro? You gotta struggle, cause it's a huddle. Once over there is always a new puzzle. There ain't a prize, but there will be pride if you don't succeed. Don't be ashamed to resist, cause persistence is the key. That's why it's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you need. And it's exactly what you here for. It's exactly